Disco will never die. Hello there, CriterioNate here, number 485. Whit Stillman's The Last Days of Disco. 1998, 113 minutes, color surround, 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio, blah, blah, blah. So, at long last, we're at the stretch of movies I hadn't been looking forward to. And before I get into my criticism, for those people who are not subscribers and probably just watching this because they want to see a review of The Last Days of Disco. It's such a unique movie. Oh god, there's some guy actually watched this movie and I want to hear him talk about it. Well, if you're a subscriber, you know why I haven't been looking forward to this movie, and I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, let's talk about this movie. So first of all, I kind of did enjoy this movie, with one exception, and you know what it is. So anyway. It's part of Stillman's trilogy. He'd done a trilogy back in the 90s. The first being Metropolitan, which we've seen, and that's a great movie. Barcelona, which we haven't seen, we won't see it for a while. That's like 812 or something like that. And then The Last Days of Disco. Although I think Barcelona was written before Metropolitan or something like that. Anyway, but they were shot in that order. I think Metropolitan was 1990, and then Barcelona was 94, and then this was 98, so in that order. And then, and then he didn't make another movie until, I think, 5 years ago with six years ago with Damsels in Distress. And, yeah, so he hasn't been doing too much, but the ones he made are very... He definitely has a good sense of humor. I definitely, kind of get his dry, very intelligent sense of humor. I don't necessarily always get it, but I appreciate it. It's okay. And this movie is very funny. There are a lot of very funny moments in this movie, especially. And if you've seen Metropolitan, you'll recognize the actors. Chris Eichman is in this movie playing a different character, and even funnier is some of the characters from Metropolitan make very brief cameo appearances in the movie, and it totally it didn't register until minutes later. I was like, wait a minute, that was from the movie, So that was kind of cool, that they're all kind of set in the same universe, I guess. But anyway, so Last Days of Disco. First, before I get to my criticism, I want to talk about the plot. So, we have two characters, Charlotte and Alice, and they're these two female editors who work at a publishing company who, in the night, they go out to the disco, and this is set in the very early 80s, during the last days of disco, when disco was kind of, phasing out, punk rock was coming in, and there was a huge rebellion against the disco scene. A lot of people were considering it passé, very cliche. I think a lot of people were also very critical of the gay community's acceptance to it, because they weren't accepting of the gay community. And also the drug culture, and just a lot of different factors were kind of bringing the disco scene down. And of course, the sexual aspects of it, people going to bars just to get laid, and, different STDs, forming, or coming out of that area. People suddenly becoming aware of a lot of different things, And so disco was on its way out. But so we are set at, the very early 80s where we are just about to see the fall, At the current point in time, the club that our characters go to is still doing relatively well. Still, a lot of people go there, a lot of people from all walks of life. But we're focusing on Charlotte and Alice. And they're two people who met in college, and they're living together now, and they're working as editors. And they go there, and they're meeting different people. There's a couple other guys that meet there. There's a guy named Dez who works there, and that's Chris Eichman's character. And he is he's kind of a player. He ends up, he tells people that he's gay when he wants to break up with them. or when he's tired of them and all that, and including Jennifer Beals in an early scene, which is kind of cool because obviously she was big in the 80s for Flashdance. And so anyway, so they meet, and they're meeting a guy, Jimmy, who is thrown out because he's an ad man. The boss doesn't want ad men in because he doesn't like that kind of clientele in his bar, you know. And so they end up moving. So Charlotte and Alice get to move in together, and they get one of their friends, Holly, to move in. They get one of what's known as a railroad apartment, and they move there. And so Alice is kind of liking Jimmy, but Charlotte's liking Jimmy too. And so, but either way, I think the first night they meet, Alice meets a guy named Tom, and they go home together. They sleep together. And then later on, she finds out that Tom was actually separated from his girlfriend, and that was just a one-night stand. And so anyway, after that, Des starts to like Alice, and yeah, it's kind of, yeah, and then they go on, and so anyway, that's the basic plot. You know, eventually, disco. We see like the reports. Stillman adds like the reports of that big disco fire during the ballpark where the riot started and all the disco records were set on fire, which really hurt. Because personally, I love disco. I think disco music, some of it's kind of cheesy, some of it's a little, you know, misguided. But I feel like there was something very intriguing about, especially the tail end of disco. You know, because there were two, you know, it was disco, and then there was like, you know, this rock, you know, punk music was coming out, and it was extremely anti-disco. And so, you know, to see the records burning, I was just like, God, I knew about the thing and all that. And later on at the end of the movie, they actually reference Casablanca Records, you know, which was a huge disco label. They, you know, had artists like Donna Summer and other artists I can't think of right now. But yeah, they were a big disco label, and you know, they were home to Kiss, who had a big disco hit with "I Was Made for Loving You" and all that. So yeah, I was definitely very intrigued by the disco side of it as a huge music fan. You know, I was kind of like, I mean, the rest of the plot was cool, and again, it's very funny. There's a really bizarre analysis of Lady and the Tramp, which is very iconic. And there's a bit that Charlotte aids Alice in, you know, trying to get her laid and all that by telling her to use the word sexy in the sentence. There's something very sexy about these lights, and so when Alice and Tom go back to her place, Tom brings up Scrooge McDuck, and she ends up saying, "There's something very sexy about Scrooge McDuck," and it's just like, oh god, that's only something. I think that's only something Stillman can pull off. And so, anyway, yeah, that's the movie. So here's where I draw the line. Here's where I can't give this movie an A. I thought the storyline was really good. I loved hearing the soundtrack, the music, you know, the disco and all that. I loved seeing the settings, and I loved the evolution of these characters, you know, when at the end when they realize that disco is dead, and how they feel like they say, you know, one of them says, "We've grown up," you know. My problem is Chloe Sevigny. I don't like her one bit. I feel like she was completely miscast. If anyone else had played the part of Alice, I would have totally been down for this movie. I'd have bought this movie. But because she was in it, I can't bring myself. I can't stand to look at her. Not one thing I've seen her in. I mean, I can't stand looking at her, and I can't stand, you know, movies she's been in. Kids, Boys Don't Cry. She was in a whole season of Portlandia, and but the one that, you know, where I draw the line is The Brown Bunny, where she actually sucked Vincent Gallo's penis for the scene, in an unsimulated scene. That's where I draw the line. And I mentioned that at the beginning of this season, I think. Or was it last season? God, I don't remember. When the hell did we see an angel at my table? That was last season. When I talked about, that was one of the cardinal rules, was that you don't suck penis in your movies. You don't do that. No. And because Carrie Fox did, and she's in An Angel at My Table, I'm like, nope. You get no love. So that being said, Kate Beckinsale is awesome. I am very impressed at how well Kate Beckinsale plays American, even though she's British. I'm very surprised, and that's always really interesting to me, is to see like British or Australian actors or from New Zealand, people with accents play Americans and not like stereotype them, because you see that a lot in the in like the 70s, like a lot of British actors and comedians put on very stereotypical American voices, but then nowadays, like they can play an American and it's completely just like you believe it. It isn't until I see interviews when I hear the actors talking in their normal voices that it's like, whoa, and I didn't realize that Kate Beckinsale was British until I think the first thing I saw her in, one of the first things I saw her in was that movie Click with Adam Sandler, and I saw her in interviews for it, and I was like, wait, what? she's British. I was like, so, and she's really beautiful too. I give her that. So Kate Beckinsale is awesome as Charlotte. Chloe Sevigny, though, I can't look at her. She's always got the RBF, the resting bitch face going on, and it's just, when she smiles, I know she doesn't mean it. So yeah, that's, I feel like if Stillman had cast anyone else as Alice, I would have bought this movie. I totally would have, because everything else about this movie was amazing, right up there with Metropolitan, but it was just miscast, and because of that, I can't give this a great rating. I'm gonna have to give this B-. B-, yes. I don't want to give it a C because I truly did, without her, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really, really good. But she brought it down. Having to see her, scene after scene after scene, just brought down my opinion of this movie. So, there it is. Again, the dialogue is great. The storyline is fantastic. All the other actors were amazing and hilarious and just such good stuff, But Chloe Sevigny, or however the hell you pronounce her name, she can fuck off. Sorry. Yeah, so anyway, that's my review of Last Days of Disco. B-. If you can stand her, by all means check this movie. Check this movie out. Supplements, there's audio commentary with them. There's 4 deleted scenes, mostly ones focusing on Dez, and then a longer one with Alice and Jimmy talking. And there's also a bit with Stillman reading a chapter from his book, the book The Last Days of Disco, with cocktails at Petrosonian afterwards. And then there's also behind-the-scenes featurette about the making of the movie, and the Stills Gallery in the trailer, and blah, blah, blah. There you are. So anyway, yes. Last Days of Disco, B-, a great movie with one terrible actress in it. So, I hope and pray that is the last bad movie we have to watch, because the last couple of movies I've told you, we hit a stride, I mean, Gene Dealman was terrible. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, but I don't think there's anything else that we have coming up that there's really nothing else that I am like dreading, If I don't like a movie, it's because I know nothing about it beforehand, Like, I know nothing about Homicide or That Hamilton Woman or Howard's End or Monsoon Wedding or Wings of Desire or anything like that. I know the directors. I know Wim Wenders. I know of him, and I know Costa Garbus did Z. I've heard of Downhill Racer and all that, and I'm definitely looking forward to the Golden Age of Television. That one is coming up. That'll be in probably a couple weeks. And we've got Shay, Steven Soderbergh. I'm looking forward to that because I love Schizopolis. And then finally the Rossellini set, which I don't know because Rossellini's movies are kind of iffy, you know. So we'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, before I start, but enough about bad movies. Let's talk about a good movie. I got it. I had to get it. This is number 925. We're going to be a long, but I just had to showcase. I got Midnight Cowboy from because this is like the first Criterion movie that they put out in a long time that I've actually been looking forward to. So, way to go, Criterion! You did something right. I saw it about a year ago. I loved it. I thought it's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and yeah, I thought it was fantastic. So I urge everyone to pick this one up. You will not be disappointed. It's a trip and a half. So, my selling point done. That's it for me for a while. That's it for me this week. This week, the Eclipser's coming in. And as far as the Eclipser is concerned, we've only got 3 more sets for the Eclipser. We got this one, Nikatsu Noir. He'll be doing this week, and he'll have the review up sometime later this week. And then it's got the Dusan Makabajev set, which I don't envy him in the slightest. To say nothing of the Chantal Ackerman, which after Gene Dealman, I feel very bad for him. Like, oh God, he's going to have a conniption. He's going to have a damn conniption, and I feel really bad for him. So Eclipser, if you're watching this one, all the best. You know, you've got at least one more good one coming up. You know, I pray this one should be good. You know, but anyway, this will be this week, and then next week we'll get through. We'll do Homicide, that Hamilton Woman at Howard's End, which we've got on hold, and then the Eclipser will come back in and do the Dusan Makabajev set, and then we'll do Monsoon Wedding, Wings of Desire, Z, A Christmas Tale, Gomorrah, Downhill Racer, The Golden Age of Television, and then Shay, and then he'll do the Chantal Ackerman set, and then we'll do the Roberto Rossellini War Trilogy, and then we're done. I'm taking a break. I'm over this. It's June, and we still got 15 more spy numbers to get through. Holy hell! You know, I wanted to be done with this, but again, a lot of it is my schedule, and also the Eclipser coming in and doing all these sets. You know, so it's a mixture of things. But anyway, so we're done here. That's all for me. Thank you for watching. Chloe Sevigny sucks. And disco does not suck. Chloe Sevigny sucks literally, but disco does not suck even more literally. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next week or later, maybe later this week for Homicide, which I don't have on my hands right now. Otherwise, I would. And the Eclipser will see you all later this week for Nikatsu Noir. And until then, goodbye.